Hey fam, Master Coach G here, thriving after 50, mind, body, soul. And in this week's episode, we are uncovering how stress affects your health. I believe that I did a podcast on stress probably about a year ago or so, but I think it's definitely worth mentioning in this season because of there's so much going on in the world that is affecting people, and so I really want to talk about stress and how we can better manage it and how the things that it does affect in our lives. Some things are obvious, some things are more subtle. So we are going to uncover how stress affects our health. This is Master Coach G, and I will see you on the inside. Hey fam, Master Coach G here, thriving after 50, and in this episode, we are uncovering how stress affects our health. Yes, stress affects our health. In some ways are obvious, in some ways are more subtle. So we are going to have a clear breakdown of how that happens and what happens to our bodies when we are stressing. The first thing that it does affect is our physical health. Number one thing it does is that it definitely weakens our immune system. Chronic stress lowers our body's ability to fight off infection when we get sick. And it usually takes longer for us to recover from being sick when we are stressing. It causes heart problems. Stress can raise our heart rate, our blood pressure, and over time increases our risk of hypertension, heart attacks, and strokes. Absolutely. Here's another thing, weight gain or weight loss. I know that people don't realize the connection between stress and weight gain or weight loss, but it can go either way. You could either lose weight or you can gain weight, and I've done both. So I'm speaking from personal experience. So what happens is that stress hormone like cortisol, it can boost our appetite, especially for junk food when we're stressing. You know, some people they eat when they're stressed, and then you have some people that lose weight. I know my daughter and I both, there was a time when we would stress and we would lose weight. No matter how much we went to the gym, no matter what we ate, it was the stress that kept the weight off, or either the stress that kept the weight on. So it can go either way. But either way, whether it's weight gain or weight loss, it definitely affects your metabolism. And that's the one thing that we definitely have to be aware of. Here's another thing that is important, which is our sleep. Stress can definitely affect our sleep. Being anxious and racing thoughts can make it hard for us to fall asleep at night. We toss, we turn, because we can't get this thing, whatever the thing is, we can't get it out of our minds. We haven't come up with a solution on how to fix it. However, it keeps us up at night, okay? But poor sleep can turn into making stress tremendously worse, okay? It becomes a vicious cycle. So you have to be careful when you're talking about stress, because it can affect your sleep, and lack of sleep affects your health, okay? Headaches and muscle pain, okay? Stress can cause tension in our muscles. It makes our muscles tight, especially in the neck, the shoulders, and the back. So if when you see people that's constantly rubbing their shoulders, more than likely they have a lot of stress in their lives, because it does make our muscles tense up so tightly. So I definitely recommend massages if you are having a stressful season in your life, because your body is going to automatically tense up and tighten up. So and that can trigger chronic pain and migraines. So if you're having chronic pain, whether it's in your back, in your shoulders, in your neck, more than likely it's from stress, but that can also lead to migraines and the chronic pain. Now, here's something else that's really, really, really important, and I can't stress this enough, is that our emotional and our mental health is affected by stress, okay? Anxiety and depression can creep in at a moment's notice. So that's why we have to be careful with stress, because it can lead to us being having a lot of anxiety, and definitely can lead to depression. Ongoing stress throws your brain chemistry out of balance. That's what stress does. It throws your brain chemistry out of balance, which can lead to mood disorders. So like 1 minute you can be nice and friendly and sweet and kind, and stress can just lead you to just snap and just go off at a drop of a hat. Okay. You also can become very irritable and angry. Okay. So if you're finding that you are anxious or have anxiety or depressed, or you are very irritable and angry, then you may want to check your stress level. Because when you're stressed, your patience shrink. And I don't know how many of you all can raise your hand on that, but I got both hands up, okay? Because when I'm stressed, I have no patience for no one, not even myself, seriously. Small problems feel bigger, and you just snap more easily because you're stressed. So that's why we have to pay attention to those type of behavior patterns in our lives, because there's something behind it. There's something that's making us behave that way. Okay, the thing seems more concentrated. It just seems like it's so much bigger. Okay, stress can clutter your mind. It affects your concentration. Okay, it's hard to focus, it's hard to remember things, and when you talk about making decisions, that is not the time to make decisions when you are extremely stressed. Okay, because you don't make good decisions when you're stressed. Okay, let's talk about burnout for a second. Okay, long-term stress, especially at work, can lead to feeling emotionally drained, detached, and unmotivated. That's a sign of being burnt out. So yes, it can be work related, or it can be related to home, your marriage, your children, pretty much anything in your life. You can get burnt out from anything. But that long-term stress can lead to feeling emotionally drained, detached, and unmotivated. So let's pay attention to the behavioral effects of stress. Okay. We go into the mode of unhealthy coping habits. Okay. So what I mean by that is that, so let's say you are dealing with some chronic stress in your life. Okay. Sometimes people will turn to alcohol. Sometimes people will turn to drugs. Sometimes people turn to overeating. Sometimes people turn to isolating themselves. These are habits that makes things worse over time. That is a unhealthy coping habit mechanism that some people turn to because of being under stress. Whether it's smoking, alcohol, overeating, isolating yourself, over time, it will get worse. Okay. Here's something else that doesn't work in our favor when it comes to stress: procrastinating and overworking. Both of those things. So you have both ends of the spectrum. You have one end where you're procrastinating, that there's things that need to be done and you don't do them. And then you have the other side of it, because you're stressed, you overwork yourself. Okay. I'm guilty of the overworking. I've never really been much of a procrastinator, but overworking, I got that hands down for me. I mean, I will go from 0 to 1,000. Just working. And I know there's probably a lot more people that have that condition as well, but we need to pay attention to that, because both ends of the spectrums, either way is not good and it's not healthy. Okay, some of us shut down to avoid tasks, which is the procrastination side, and others of us we push ourselves to the point of being exhausted. Okay, but we have to have a balance. We have to discover a system that gives us balance, because working too much and overworking is out of balance, and procrastination is out of balance as well. So we have to pay attention to these things, because if we don't, then we will find ourselves having this being unbalanced in our lives, okay? But here's the bottom line. The bottom line is that stress isn't just in your head. It affects your whole body, okay? Short bursts of stress can be helpful, but when it drags on to where it wears you down, then that's a problem, okay? We have to learn how to manage it so that it doesn't manage us, okay? And managing it isn't just about feeling better. It's about protecting your health, okay? Because you can feel better, but you still need to protect your health, okay? So here's what I'm going to give you now. I'm going to give you some practical, no-nonsense ways to manage stress and things that actually works, okay? All right, number 1, move your body. Why? Because it works. Exercise burns off stress hormones like the cortisol that I spoke about earlier. It releases endorphins that your brain naturally has to boost your mood. So yes, move your body because it works, okay? What can you do? You can walk, you can run, you can stretch, you can do some weightlifting, you can dance, you can swim, you can cycle, you can get out in your garden, you can dance around the house, all those things. But get up and move, okay? That is one of the principles that I always talk about. Exercise is definitely one of those things. Even if you're just doing 10 to 20 minutes, it's still helpful, because what happens is it kind of gets your mind off of the stress and moves it over to what you're doing, whether it's swimming, because more than likely you can't be stressed and swim at the same time, because you're underwater, you're kind of focusing on swimming, you're not focusing on stressing. So it will definitely help you to do something for 10 to 20 minutes just to kind of break up that stress, and you will find yourself in a better mood after that as well. Breathe on purpose. Why? Because it works. Deep, controlled breathing slows down your heart rate, and it calms your nervous system, okay? What to do? Try breathing. It's called box breathing. Try that, okay? Which is inhale 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, exhale for 4 seconds, and then repeat. Okay? It's called box breathing. Inhale 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, exhale for 4 seconds, and then hold for 4 seconds, and then repeat it. Okay? There's plenty of videos on YouTube. If you want to get more information on box breathing, please go and check it out, because this is definitely a way to slow down your heart rate and will calm your nervous system, because when you're stressing, you have to calm your nervous system. So box breathing is definitely a good way to do that. Here's the next thing you got to do. You got to get some real sleep, quality sleep. Why? Because it works. Lack of sleep fuels your stress. Quality rest resets your brain. Okay, let me say that again. Lack of sleep fuels your stress. I don't know anyone that doesn't get enough sleep that isn't grumpy, grouchy, moody, like they get up on the wrong side of the bed. So that's why sleep is so important, because when you don't sleep, you're only fueling your stress. You're only making things worse. So quality sleep is important. It does reset your brain. Okay, what to do? Stick with a sleep routine. Avoid your phone, avoid your computer, your laptop, your tablet before it's time to go to bed. Keep your room dark and cool so that your body can relax and rest well. Okay? Now, here's one that is probably going to be a challenge for some people, because it was a challenge for me, but I learned how to do this and I became very efficient at it. Say no more often. Okay? Why? Because it works. Okay? Overcommitting leads to burnout. Sometimes we say yes because we don't want to say no to certain people. Okay? However, when we don't say no often enough, we are overcommitted, and it leads to us being burnt out, which causes a problem. So what can you do? Protect your time. Don't say yes to things just to please other people. because that leads to burnout. So now you're dealing with that. You're already stressed, and now you got to deal with something else on your plate. Absolutely not. Learn to say, nope, I can't help you at this time. And it's okay. It's okay to say no. We don't have to feel obligated. I know that some people feel entitled to our lives. I know some people feel entitled to us, being there for them. I understand that and I get it. But you got to learn how to say no sometimes, because it leads to you getting burnt out. Okay? Here's something else that we got to learn how to do. We got to learn how to talk it out. Why? Because it works. Okay? Bottling things up only builds up pressure. It builds up pressure. It's just like I don't know. Well, I haven't seen one in a very long time. But my grandmother used to have a pressure cooker. Okay, and at the top of the pressure cooker, it had this metal thing, and it would spin around. When it got too hot inside the container, the steam would come up and make that little thing rotate around, and it would look like it was just like a top that was spinning, because the pressure inside of the pot was so built up that the pressure had to come out through the little exit. So be careful with not talking about what the issue is. Okay, talking about it helps you to release the pressure. The only thing that released the pressure of that pressure cooker was my grandmother turning it off and taking off the lid. So that's how you release the pressure. Talking about it is a process that releases the pressure. You got to talk about it. Okay, so what to do? Vent to a friend, talk to a therapist, even write things out. Some people like to journal. Write it down. Whatever it is that you're feeling, just go 100 on that. Okay, because holding on to it damages you. Okay, take some breaks. Okay, why? Because it works. Okay, especially from social media, from the technology, from the computer, from the phone, from the tablet. Take a break. Because I know we get constant notifications and we get on there and we start scrolling and, but that kind of wears us down. And it takes our energy because we see things and sometimes we're triggered. So that's the reason why we need to take a tech break. That's what I call it, taking a tech break. Just because some days I don't even get on on social media. Usually Wednesdays is my day to kind of get admin stuff done, but I really don't get on social media that much on Wednesdays. That's kind of my day to kind of chill. And I don't do a whole lot on Saturdays because that's my Sabbath. That's my day of rest. So I don't do a whole lot because that stuff affects your energy. I don't do a lot of TV. I watch world news maybe a couple times a week. And that's it. So you got to take a tech break, from the scrolling, because it does affect your focus and your energy. Set boundaries with your phone. I know that sounds crazy, but set boundaries. Say, you know what, I'm going to get on social media, I'm going to post, I'm going to scroll for 10 minutes and I'm going to get off, okay? Set boundaries and take it serious. Don't sit back and continue to do it every day. You got to have some time free from the screen every single day, okay? Here's something else you got to focus on, doing one thing at a time. Why? Because it works. Multitasking is cool, and I know a lot of us pride ourselves on being able to multitask, but that can increase our stress levels. And it also can produce low productivity. Okay, so, I know that, a lot of us, take pride and say, I can do 10 things at one time, but that can increase your stress level and you're not even aware of it because you're trying to get everything done at once. So do one thing at a time, okay? Focus fully on one task, finish that, and then move on to something else, okay? It's simpler, faster, and calmer, and you will find yourself, your nervous system will become more at ease, because when we put too much on our plate, it's just too much. Here is something that's really important. Make time for joy. Why? Because it works. Even the Bible tells us that laughter is good for the soul. So laugh, have fun, do things that you love. That's acts of relieving the stress. Okay, whatever that is. I don't know whatever that brings you joy, whatever it is that makes you laugh, whatever it is that makes you happy. Make time for those things, okay? Make room for your hobbies, whether it's music, reading a book, whether it's games, whatever fills you up, because, when we're stressed, we're just completely empty. So whatever fills you up, that's what you need to do. Okay. And here's another thing that we don't do often, but practice saying that you're good enough. Why? Because it works. Okay. Perfection is a stress trap. Let me say that again. Perfection is a stress trap. Let me tell you firsthand, I know because I was a perfectionist. Everything had to be perfect. And when I tell you that I had so much stress in my life because everything had to be perfect, and there's no such thing. Okay? What to do? Aim for progress, not perfection. It's better done than perfect. That's what you want to aim for. Aim for progress and not perfection. Because at least if it's done, you don't have to be perfect, but at least it's done. Okay? And here's something else that's really, 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 really important. Get help when you need it. Why? Because it works. You don't have to power through everything alone. Some of us have a habit, especially in the African American community. We feel like, oh no, I can't go to no therapist. Oh no, I don't need to see no psychiatrist. Oh no, I don't need no help. Yeah, you do. Yes, you do. And it's okay. It's okay, because we are so busy trying to do this thing on our own. We cannot do it on our own. Okay? What to do? Reach out. Whether it's a doctor, a counselor, support group, therapy, whatever. Reach out when you need the help. Because stress kills. Okay? Stress can kill you. Heart attack, stroke, yes. Okay? Here's my final thoughts. Stress is normal. We're going to stress. We're going to have stress in our lives. But letting it run your life is not. Stress is normal, but letting it run your life, is nothing normal about that. The key isn't eliminating the stress, but managing it so that it doesn't manage you. That's the key. Okay? We will never be able to eliminate stress, because it's going to be something, whether it's big stress, little stress, it doesn't matter. There's going to be stress. But we have to learn how to better manage it so that it doesn't manage us. Okay? Cool. That's what I have for you today. I hope this episode has added value to your life. If it has, please share it with someone that it may be a benefit to as well. Also, please subscribe to my channel so that every time I drop a new episode, you will be the first to be notified. Okay? But before I get out of here, as usual, I want to give a shout out to all my listeners around the world. I appreciate you all so much here in the United States, Canada, Australia, Russia Federation, China, Mexico, Belgium, Ireland, South Africa, Brazil, Nigeria, United Kingdom, Germany, France, Bangladesh, Ukraine, Kuwait, India, Hong Kong, Dominican Republic, Philippines, Barbados, Saudi Arabia, Spain, Japan, Netherlands, Pakistan, Indonesia, Portugal, and I just added Netherlands and Singapore and I just added Singapore and Peru, my bad. So I appreciate each and every one of you for listening today. Thank you so much for joining me here on Thriving After 50, Mind, Body, Soul. This is Master Coach G, and I will see you on the next level.